Well, welcome to another edition to the PR Man and the Coach Talking Ball on the Ballfather Podcast presented by Sportskeeda. I'm Reggie Roberts, longtime NFL communications executive, and we're joined by our NHL correspondent, man about town, all-around good guy, JP Peterson. What's up, baby?
What's up, Reg? How you doing, brother?
Hey, man, I'm good. Just want to just check in with you a little bit to put our listeners in touch with what's going on in Tampa with regards to the Lightning. Tough season, good season. Anytime you make the playoffs, it's a good season. But obviously, the players in the locker room probably don't feel that way because if you don't win, you don't win. There's only one winner, so everybody's not going to be happy. JP, kind of take us through what happened with the Lightning. I mean, they had a good season, but they look like I mentioned, that it looked like they might have just run out of gas a little bit there.
Yeah, they did all their exit interviews yesterday, and that was the prevailing theme. While nobody ever wants to say, God, we were tired, we were exhausted.
Exactly.
That's kind of what they said. Even Vasilevsky said he felt good for the first 30 to 35 games, and then just little things kept breaking down with his body, and they could just never catch up. And you think about it. We've talked about this all year long. It's kind of been a malaise season after 3 years of making it to the conference finals and winning 2 cups. They played a year's worth of hockey a season more than anybody else in the league, and it was in a compressed 3 years. It's ridiculous. And my co-host on my show came up with a great stat the other day. When you look at the other teams that have won the Stanley Cup going back to St. Louis, and even before then, those teams have not won a first-round series the next year or since. Because it's too hard. It's too hard. And the Lightning went 3 years of winning 11 of 12 and then got back to the playoffs. In hockey, it's just so hard because people raid your team. They raid your coaching staff. The salary cap is not that high or rarely goes up. So it's hard to keep up and keep your players. I mean, over the last year, they lost Ryan McDonough. They lost Palat. They lost Johnny Gord. All these key players for their Stanley Cup runs are gone, and they had to try to figure it out without them. And I thought they did a good job. You get into the playoffs, you're sitting where you just need to be. You knew you were playing Toronto, and frankly, I thought they were the better team. If not for a couple of, there were two big hits that changed the series. The hit on Bunting that took Chernak out, who's their best defender, their best lockdown defender from game one. It was a cheap shot, and he got fined. He got suspended for 3 games, but they took Chernak out for the whole series. That was a win for Toronto. And then the shot on Braden Point, their leading scorer, where he goes into the boards. They call the 5-minute major and then somehow rescind it after replay. The guy had 3 broken ribs, we found out yesterday. He couldn't really play effective the rest of the series. So I don't want to sit here and whine about it, but these are reasons. You lose your best lockdown defender and you lose your top scorer, it's going to be tough to win a series. And those were 2 questionable hits.
Listen, hockey. I don't think people who aren't from the East and aren't from Canada and aren't from places that don't follow hockey don't really understand how physical that game is. I mean, It is a physical, brutal game. Football's physical. Basketball, hockey is a different animal when it comes to physicality. I mean, you and I have talked about it a lot about how physical it was. And the toll that it takes on your body. I mean, I thought they fought their ass off. I really did. I thought they fought hard. They fought their ass off. They just like you said, going to conference finals, going to the cup. You basically are playing an additional season. It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, and it wears on you mentally and physically. Not just your body, but mentally and emotionally. And that's why these other teams that have won have not been back even to the playoffs or won a first round series. It's damn hard to stay hungry as everybody else who wants the cup. And I thought the Lightning had more energy than Toronto. I thought they ran the play 5-on-5. They were superior. Most of the analytics will tell you that. But their top guys did not match Toronto's top guys. Marner had 9 assists. Matthews had six goals, I believe. I mean, they were just better. Stamkos had 1 goal. Kucherov had 1 goal in game 1. It just wasn't good enough for the top line. And a lot of that has to do with the other things that were happening down the lineup. But in the end, Vasi was not Vasi, as he normally is. He self-admitted that. There were a lot of goals that went in that were tip goals that no goalie's going to stop. I mean, that's just the way of the game. But if there's any lament that they have is they couldn't close out games. They should have closed out game 3. You can't give up a goal with a minute left in that situation, even with an extra attacker. And that was a soft goal. And Vasi should have had it in game 3. They give up the overtime winner. It was not a great goal. The overtime goal that wins the series goes off the skate of a defenseman. And that was so apropos. That was the way that series had to end. Just a crappy shot thrown into net that goes off a skate and beats Vasi. When the Lightning were running the play in game 6 or game 5, game 6 as well. So look, that's hockey. But I'll tell you this, Reg. I sensed this. There was almost a sense of relief. Nobody wanted to admit it, but I think they felt like they probably weren't going to win the cup this year, and they just need a full off season. Yeah. They need an off season to get back healthy, to get their minds right, to get hungry again, to win a cup. And I think that's a good spot for them to be in right now. It's just not their year. They got a great core coming back. Probably Killorn is the guy that people think, and he played great this year. He had probably his best season at age 33. That's the guy I think people are going to come try to get. Like Palat last year, like McDonough, they had to trade, but he'll be offered some money. He said yesterday he doesn't want to leave. He'll definitely stay for a hometown discount, but that discount's going to have to be significant because of where their salary cap situation is. Some of the other long-term contracts are kicking in, so it's going to be tough to keep him. But if you listen to, and I know Alex Killorn a little bit, he's a Tampa guy. He does not want to leave. He loves his jet ski. He goes to the rink on the jet ski. He goes to the store on the jet ski. He goes sees his friends on the jet ski. I can't see this guy, going to live in New York or someplace else. I just don't see it. So I think we'll see how the offseason works out. Julian Priestbaugh, their GM, has a lot on his plate. Steven Stamkos said yesterday he's got one more year on his deal. He doesn't want to wear another sweater, any other team, so he'll take a hometown discount to stay and extend his contract. We'll see. They've got some work to do. They're going to have to replace that fourth line, I think, of Maroon, Perry, and Belmar. Those guys are a little old in the tooth and looked old in the regular season. They played pretty well in the playoffs, not bad. But I think they'll probably look to get younger and faster in that and maybe bigger there. Tanner Jeannot was fighting a high ankle sprain as well. Hedman had a hip impingement. I think we mentioned that on this show. Braid Point had the 3 broken ribs. So they were beat up. But I think obviously the whole core is back. Hedman, Vasilevsky, Kucherov, Stamkos, Cirelli, Jeannot, Hagel, everybody, Nick Paul, everybody is back. So they'll be ready to go.
It'll be interesting. It's in football, I know this for a fact. A lot of times, guys, the best thing for guys once the offseason hits is just get away from it for a month. Don't pick up a stick. Don't do anything. Just go away. And I tell you what, with the way they played and the way they battled, in spite of all the things that were going against them, you'll see a different when they show up again. I mean, when do they show up? In a month and a half, 2 months? 3 months? What is it?
Yeah, they'll get out to the rink in a couple of months, and then September is when they really start trying to get back in shape.
Yeah, you'll see a different team. I'm sure. Yeah. The guys who got hurt, the guy who got the broken ribs, the other defenseman guy that you mentioned who they knocked out. Those guys have long memories. They don't forget shit like that. They don't.
No,
they don't forget things like that. Especially when you've played a team that sort of knocked you out of the playoffs. I mean, they'll be thinking about it. They'll be thinking about it, and you'll see it'll be an inspired and a team ready to go once the new season begins.
I agree.
Just to sort of kind of shift gears a little bit with your baseball team, what's going on with them? I mean, 24-6, best in the majors, hit the ball out of the yard, playing great defense, good pitching. I mean, what the hell's going on with the Rays? And by the way, my Yankees are in last place right now.
Yes, they are. The Rays have a homestand this week with 2 teams coming in. One's really good and playing well, and the other's the Yankees. Hard to. Sorry about that, brother. Sorry about that. I know that hurt a little bit.
You're good.
I mean, who had the Pirates and the Rays in first place, first weekend in May, playing at Tropicana Field, which the Rays won last night 4-1. Got some more great pitching, kind of cobbled it together with Fleming. Started with Guava. They they cobbled it together with the bullpen last night. They're getting Tyler Glass now back probably by the end of May. There's one of the best pitchers in the game if he can stay healthy. McClanahan's been fantastic. Eflin, the guy they got in the offseason, has been pretty good. So they're pitching, they're number one in the league in pitching. They're number one in the league in hitting. They're doing it all. What's really shocking is this is the same team that scored 1 run in 24 innings in the playoffs last year against Cleveland and really struggled to score last year. Their offense was terrible. It's the same guys. It's the same freaking guys. And they start the season with 22 straight games with a home run, major league record, 13-0 at home, major league record. I mean, just the best start since 1900 in baseball. Now, the schedule was their friend in April. Their schedule is not their friend in May. We're going to find out what they're all about, right? They got, the Pirates are here, good ball club. They've been playing well. Then the Yankees come in, but Judge is hurt, Stanton is hurt, which they've got more payroll hurt than the Rays have active. I mean, and that's usually going to be the case. So, look, I don't expect the Rays to win 23 games in May. That's not going to happen. They'll regress to the mean. If they can play 500 ball with the schedule they're going to play, because they're playing a lot of the big dogs in May, they'll be fine. But even if they play 500 ball, they're still going to be 16 games over 500. When you start that fast, it's kind of a numbers game. This is a really good baseball team, and if they just play 500 the rest of the way, they're gonna lap the field. They're gonna win 110 games. So they're in good shape. Injuries are the only thing that can crush them, and unfortunately, injuries are the things that have really been their bugaboo. I think a lot of it has to do with the surface of the field, the Tropicana field. Guys hate playing on that fake surface for whatever reason. That stuff gives them problems. Kyle Tucker from the Astros tells me every time he comes to Tropicana Field and plays in the outfield, he's got to ice his knees for like a half hour after the game. It's just, there's something about the matting of that field. It is built on a toxic waste dump. I'm not saying that has anything to do with the injuries. That's just a fact. But no, guys, Wander Franco, their superstar to be, right? He's had issues with his quads running on that field. So that's the thing that can take them down. They've got pitchers. Jeffrey Springs already went on the IL for Tommy John. They've got a couple 3 or 4 more guys on the injured list. So they've got to kind of maintain, which they've been able to do, but this is going to be a little bit tougher. I'll predict that the Rays will probably go 500 in May.
Well, you know what? They are going up in fight class. But, I tell people this all the time. I was arguing with a guy the other day. We were talking about, they played a bunch of last place teams. I said, look, the schedule is the schedule. You play whoever Major League Baseball puts on the schedule. Your job is to win the game. The Rays have done a really good job. I'm excited for him for 2 reasons. One, I think Cash is a really good guy.
Yeah,
people say really nice things about him. And then the other thing is, what I'd be interested to find out, and maybe this, JP, since you're plugged in there so deeply and so intently, did they do anything differently from a coaching perspective? You were talking about how Rosarina wasn't looking at the scouting report. Maybe he's reading it now. Maybe they got it where where those books was audio books. Maybe they're doing that. Something's different with those guys. They were dead awful against the Indians last year, and now they're the best team in the majors.
Well, I would say they're healthy.
Okay.
Last year when their offense was terrible, Brandon Lau missed 80 games. Wander Franco missed 80 games. They never had a consistent lineup whatsoever. Not that they have a consistent lineup, but it was totally fractured. And when you're a low payroll team and you miss 2 bats like that, it's going to affect you tremendously. Then your lineup gets really thin. Even the hot guys, pitchers can pitch around. Your lineup is just thin, right? Now there's just stacking guys. They have the most guys with 6+ home runs in the majors. They're just consistent throughout the lineup. Ramirez hit another home run last night. That's his 6th. He's not a big power guy, but everybody's got 6, 8 home runs on this team. There's no drop off in terms of if you're a pitcher and you're like, well, I'm going to pitch around this guy because he can take me yard. Well, there's another guy right there that's going to take you yard as well. And the other thing they're doing, especially Arozarena, he is finally listening to the scouting report and looking at it, which is nice. Imagine he's like, wow, I could really be a good player if I use some of this knowledge.
Read this thing, it'd be good.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, and here's the other thing. They had the most players play in the World Baseball Classic. So those guys had already been in high leverage, high adrenaline situations. And is it any wonder that they're off to a great start? Because Arozarena came in hot as a firecracker from playing for Team Mexico. So did Isaac Paredes. I mean, all these guys were ready to go. Jason Adam. So I think that had something to do with it. But more than that, they're healthy. Josh Lowe, his second year in the majors. Last year he was overwhelmed. They wanted him to take over for Austin Meadows, who had 106 RBIs the year before. It was too much pressure. He came back this year. He tweaked his swing a little bit. Been much better. Jose Siri, who was injured for about half the first month, stole home last night on a double steal. They're doing everything right. They got great speed and athleticism in this lineup now. They don't have any plotters in the lineup. So defensively, they're really, really good. With no shift, you got to have more athletic guys to cover more ground, right?
Yeah.
So I think they're defensively, they're better than most teams. They cover more ground than most teams. And the offense has just been a bonus. Even Taylor Walsh was kind of a light-hitting shortstop utility guy. He's got 4 home runs in the first month. And they had 2 guys last night that hit right-handers really well, hitting over 300 that weren't in the starting lineup. They're just it's crazy how much better they've been than last year. Now, also I will say this: the year before they were the number 2 offense in baseball. So if you look at it in total, it's just like, okay, they're a pretty good offensive team. Lots of injuries in 2021 or 2022. Come back fresh in 2023 and add a couple of guys that have grown up a little bit. And that's why you have the best offense in baseball.
Well, I'll tell you what, I do know that the Yankees are going to be in town over the weekend, and we're in the middle of a transition here with regards to a move to a new place.
I don't want to hear any excuses, Reg. Get over here. Let's go. No excuses.
I know.
Yankee fan.
I can't. You know what? I'm gonna talk to my partner, see if she wants to come over. I think double weekend, and so I think we may do that. So. Well, let's switch gears here a little bit. You're on with the PR man, the coach, talking ball on the Ballfather Podcast, presented by Sportskeeda. There's this little meeting that took place last week called the NFL Draft, and quietly, I saw one report about how the Bucs didn't do well. I think the Bucs did a pretty good job in that draft. I mean, the guy that they got, what's his name, Kalijah Kancey, that guy's a good player. I think he should be playing on the edge. There's some talk about he should be playing interior. I think he'd be better suited on the edge. What's the plan for him? Have they talked about what their plan is for him?
Well, Kalijah Kancey, real interesting player. He's kind of an Aaron Donald clone. I mean, he played at Pitt, same size, 6'1", 280, super quick. I mean, you don't want to say it just because the guy played at the same college and it's the same size. I get it. And he's not Aaron Donald. I'm not saying he's Aaron Donald, but the comp is just inescapable. It just is. And when you turn on the tape, there's so much to like about this kid. First of all, the production is off the charts. 32.5 tackles for loss in the last 2 years, 19 sacks in the last couple seasons, ACC Defensive Player of the Year. The thing about when you turn on the tape, and I'm not talking about the tape against Rhode Island, I'm talking about tape against Tennessee. You see him getting underneath these 330-pound guards and just moving them back. He plays with such leverage. You remember Warren Sapp. Sapp, he's got that low, he plays low, and he's just big in the trunk. I mean, he's got those big back haunches, that's where he's big, and he anchors down, and he comes up underneath you and just moves you. And if he doesn't do that, while you're getting ready to set hard, because he's going to get lower than you, he gives you a swim move, and he's around you. Quickest cat I've seen on the defensive line since Warren Sapp. And his technique is impeccable. Comes from an Army background. His father And he's got a lot of family in St. Pete. His dad's whole family is in St. Pete. They were all wearing Buccaneers jerseys at the draft. So he's got a natural connection here. But his father and mother both in the Army. So he's just a great kid. His technique, his work ethic is just spot on. I think this kid's going to be fantastic. And when you look at the league, there's not any Tom Brady's anymore. Guys aren't standing still back there. You got to have quick guys that can get after the quarterback and run him down, right? This guy has ran the fastest 40, 4.65, I think he ran at 282 pounds. For an interior defensive lineman, I think in the last 10 years of the draft. So his measurables, his 3-cone drill, all that quickness, his explosiveness is off the charts. And everybody said, well, you got to get edge rusher. You got to get an edge rusher. What you need to do is affect the passer. You got to get a better pass rush, right? This guy helps your pass rush because, like you said, they can slide him outside and kind of a wide technique, either head up or inside the tackle or even outside. Because Bowles' defense, Todd Bowles, their head coach and defense coordinator, is very multiple. The days of we play a 3-4, we play a 4-3, those are gone. And it's positionless, kind of like basketball now, right? You need to match up in certain areas. And this guy is a matchup nightmare. He's strong enough to hold at the point of attack against double teams, which you turn on the tape and you see two guys, they just can't move him because he's so low. And then he'll go around him. He's got the athletic ability to go around him. Another thing Bowles likes to do is drop his defensive lineman in coverage, right? Well, he's got, at 280 pounds, he's got the lateral movement to be able to make those plays. So he really fits what the Bucs want to do. And even though he's not a, quote, edge rusher, he can come off the edge, and he's going to give you a lot of interior issues for the offensive line, and it's going to improve their pass rush tremendously. They're now they also got two other edge rushers, Yaya Diaby, who is a physical freak.
Yeah,
he's just a baby when it comes to playing football. He had 9 sacks last year at Louisville. And I talked to some people who covered him and said, this guy is just scratching the surface. He's like in the 97th percentile in terms of his athleticism, his get off, his speed, his 3-cone, his explosiveness, all that broad jump, high jump, all those things. He's like in the 97th percentile. 6'3", 260, 270. He's a physical freak. And if they can get this guy technique, and he's got good bend coming around the corner, I think he's a steal of the draft. There's another guy they got in the 6th round out of Eastern Michigan, Jose Ramirez, who's kind of a Von Miller, 6'1", 240-pound guy. But man, he comes off the edge. He was the player of the year in the MAC, I believe. Defensively, I can't believe he was there in the 6th round. This guy's production. Now it's because he's small. His 40 time wasn't great, but his production is really, really good. I'm not saying he's going to be, an all pro, but to get a guy like that in the 6th round that can help you coming off the edge is great. They got a kid, Trey Palmer, in the 6th round. Check this out. Dude is 6'1.5", almost 200 pounds, was the fastest wide receiver to run, 4.33. Okay? Had 1,000+ yards at Nebraska. Nebraska, not exactly a passing school. No. Caught 3 touchdowns of 70 yards or more, and was available in the 6th round. Help me understand that.
What's wrong with him? Probably because he played.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. There must be something. Obviously, there must be something. But he did have 12 drops, which is not good. But again, 6th rounder with those kind of measurables. Trey Palmer, kind of crazy. Who else did they get? Oh, they got a big tight end out of Purdue, Payne Durham. Not very fast, but he had 21 touchdowns. So he's got that feel for zone coverage, catches the ball really well in traffic. Not a great blocker despite his size, so they hope to get him better at that. So that's a guy that could be your number 2 tight end. And then they got my favorite name and one of my favorite players, Servassier Dennis. Servassier. I want to be called Servassier for the rest of my life. He is a undersized middle linebacker. Great production out of Pittsburgh. Played with Kalijah Kancey, obviously. Another really, buttoned up kid. Super aggressive. not great in coverage, which is why he dropped. But what's weird about him is he's got the explosive athletic numbers to be good in coverage. I mean, his quick twitch is abnormal for a guy of his size and physicality. He plays the run like an absolute animal. I mean, and that's something that, if by chance, number 45, who wants to be traded and wants a $20 million contract, Devin White, if for some reason he holds out, you plug in Servassier, Dennis to get your run game okay. You'll be okay in the run game. That guy can play inside. Yeah. So I think, listen, most of the people who really know the draft, the talent evaluators, have given the Bucks a B to A-. It's not a sexy draft. There's no huge names, some good ones, but no huge names. But they got good players at the places they needed to get starters. And I think they probably drafted 3 or 4 starters. And if you can draft 3 or 4 starters, that's a home run draft.
You win it. The guy that we didn't mention is Cody Mock, the guy from North Dakota State. He's a good player too. I mean, he's a good player too.
He's got no front teeth. He's got their 2 front teeth, and he's got long red hair. He looks like Ryan Jensen without 2 front teeth. The dude is off the charts athletic. He played at North Dakota State, played left tackle. He's projecting as a guard in the NFL. I looked at his tape, and it's just, he mauls people. But he's playing at North Dakota State. So the tape, is going to lie a little bit. Now, he went to the Senior Bowl and dominated. He dominated bigger guys, stronger guys, the 5 stars, the first-round picks. He held up very, very well at the Senior Bowl. Now, the Bucks have a great track record of drafting small school offensive linemen with Ali Marpet and Alex Kappa. They did it last year with Luke Gedeke, and that didn't work out so well, but they were playing him out of position. He's going to move to right tackle. Tristan Wirfs is going to move to left tackle, which I think he's the best right tackle in the game. He's as athletic as he'll be fine at left tackle. He'll be the best left tackle in the game in probably 2 years. So their line now is Wirfs, who's an all-pro at left tackle.
Yep.
Got to get used to it. Mock will probably play left guard, but he's got to beat out some other guys that played pretty well last year. You got Ryan Jensen, the all-pro at center. Right guard will probably be Hainsey, who played center, who started last year at center. Yep. They've got a Stinney, a couple of guys that can compete there. And then right tackle could be Hainsey or Gedeke or the guy, Matt Filer, who they signed in the offseason. So I think their offensive, despite them not getting an offensive tackle that everybody thought they were going to get, I didn't think it was that big of a need. I think their offensive line is going to be much better because they're not going to have a statue back there, in Tom Brady.
I saw this morning. We're finishing up with JP Peterson, the PR man, the coach talking ball on the Ballfather Podcast, presented by Sportkeeda. I saw this morning that the league or Nielsen released their new rating, their new numbers for the Super Bowl. Super Bowl with the Chiefs.
TV ratings.
115.1 million people, which is the most watched Super Bowl ever. They sent in the data without the streaming services and all the other stuff. I don't know how you do that, at least whatever. But we were talking on another guy I was talking to yesterday, was saying how the league is oversaturated and people are consuming the NFL less. I said, what rock are you living under? I said,
that is the king, man.
I said, the league, it's not your father's NFL anymore. There's a million different ways that people are consuming it. It's not like we used to when we were kids. We waited for the morning paper. I mean, it's now it was with fantasy football, with the gambling piece that we're not really supposed to talk about, but it's a huge part of the game now. The game is as popular and as big as it's ever been. It's as popular.
No question. I mean, the draft is a perfect example of that. It wasn't even a game, and you got 100 million people watching the draft at any one point this weekend. I mean, it's bananas. No, this league has crossed over from just sports to pop culture. I mean, it's 48 of the top 50 shows on television every year are NFL football games. I mean, it's ridiculous. Of all television shows, I mean, they dwarf. I mean, they put on a Pro Bowl where they're wearing flags, and there's 20 million people watching.
People watching. Yeah, I don't know what problem this. This is a buddy of mine who lives maybe because he lives part of the time of the year in London. He lives in London for 6 years. And that's why he thinks it. I said, dude, what are you talking about? I said, people are rabid about this game. And it's becoming, it's not as popular as soccer is overseas, the way soccer is, but here it dwarfs everything else. Nothing else is even close.
Yeah, it took, I think all sports took a little dip during COVID, and of course the politics that were out there for a long time, I think turned some people off. But all those, as we knew they would, they all came back. They were only mad for a little while. They all came back.
We're gonna leave it there. We're gonna let you get on to your show. I will text you, my brother, if I get over there this weekend. I will text you, and maybe we can meet up.
Yeah, let's do it. I want to watch the Rays kick that Yankee ass.
Well, I tell you what, the long season, and everybody's playing who's usually good for us is on the shelf, but we'll figure it out. Have a great day, man. I appreciate it. We'll be in touch. Talk to you soon.
Always a great time. Thanks, bud.
Right. Thanks, man. Bye.